Hello friends, in this video we are going to see 4 ways to center align an element using CSS. I have a basic login form set up here and this div holds this login form's design and I have an outer section here. In this video we will be writing pure CSS to center align element. But to design this login form faster I have used Tailwind CSS. So you will be seeing a lot of class names here, but don't worry about that. Here if you see, this div holds this login form and we have an outer section here. Let's add a class to this section and name it as parent. Let's add a class name to this inner div and make it as child. So we have two classes here to work with now. First, I will add borders to these two classes so that you will be able to see what is happening here clearly. So I add a parent class here. Let's give border 10 pixel solid red. Also for the child, let's add border 10 pixel solid green. To center align element, you should have enough room, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a maximum width to this child. Let's give max width as 500 pixels. So now if you see, parent has full width and this child has maximum width of 500 pixels. Now we have some space here to align horizontally, but to align vertical, we need some space at the bottom, right? So let's give this parent a bigger height. I'm going to add height and I'm going to give a value as 100 VH. This 100 VH gives full view height to the parent. So we have some space in the bottom for vertical alignment. Now let's center align this element. The first and easy way to center align an element is using flexbox. Flexbox is a powerful layout module that makes centering elements quite easier. So let's make this parent a flexbox container. To do that, I add a display property and I set it as flex. Once you set the parent as a flex, by default, child element will be having a full height until you set alignments for that. First, let's align it horizontally. For that, we have a property in CSS called justify content. To center align it, we have to give it a value center. Once we give center, now the child element is horizontally centered. Next, let's center align vertically. To do that, there is a property called align items. For this also, you have a value called center. Once you give that, now if you see the child element is center aligned. Let's see the second way. The second way is also using flexbox, but here we can remove this content and align items. Instead of giving properties in the parent, we can give property in the child itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a margin as auto. Now when I save it, it is in the center. So what this auto does is whatever space is left in the right and bottom, it equally distributes that space to the four sides. So child gets center aligned. This works for both flex and grid. See, if I change this display property to grid, now also you get the same result. If you want to center align only horizontally but not vertically, then this display flex is not required. See, when I remove this display flex, it will be horizontally aligned but it will not be vertically aligned. The third way to center align is using grid. There is a property called place items. If you give it a value as center, what elements you have in this grid container will get center aligned. The last way is using position property. To explain that, I'm removing this grid from here. Let's work on the child element now. I'm going to add a property called position. Let's give position as absolute for this child element. Giving a position as absolute separately doesn't impact anything. So for now, simply I'm going to add a property called top and I'm going to give it a value 0. Now if you save, see now this child element gets overlapped with the parent section. But what actually happens is the child element now aligns according to the body, not according to its parent element. To align it according to the parent element, whenever you have a position as absolute for a child element, you have to give a position as relative to the parent element. Now what happens is this child element will work relative to this parent element, so that now if you see top 0 aligns to the top of the parent element. Now we have set the position as relative to the parent and position as absolute to the child. And now let's center align this child. First, let's give a left property as 50%. What happened now is whatever space there is for this parent element. In this example, we have a full width. In that, the child will be aligned after the half of the width, that is 50%. Likewise, let's do for the top as well. See, it gets pushed to the bottom. Once we have pushed 50% to the left and 50% from the top, let's realign this to the center position. To do that, let's use a transform. For this transform, there is a function called translate. This translate function takes two arguments. The first argument is to align it horizontally and the second argument is to align it vertically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a minus 50%. So what happens is it takes 50% width of the child element. And since we have given a minus value, it moves to the left. When I save it, see, it moves to the left. When I remove this minus, see, it moves to the right. So what we have done is technically we have moved the top left corner of the child element to the center position of the parent element, and later using translate move this child element halfway to the left. Next, let's move halfway to the top. So again a minus 50% will move it upwards, and see, now it is center line. If you give a positive value, it moves downwards. So this is another way of center aligning an element. Finally, let's remove this border so that we get the final output. So that's all for this short video. If you find this video interesting, show some love and I will see you in the next video.